Have you ever noticed how two people can go through the exact same experience and yet respond in completely different ways? One stays calm, the other is overwhelmed with stress, anxiety, or even despair. Why does that happen? It's a question I've asked myself countless times, and maybe, deep down, you've wondered the same. The answer, at least according to ancient wisdom, lies not in what's happening outside of us, but in what's going on inside. Buddha once said, "The mind is everything. What you think, you become." Let that sink in for a moment. Because today, we're going to dive deep into how all suffering begins in the mind. And more importantly, how you can begin to set yourself free from it. Let's start with a simple story. Imagine two people caught in a sudden thunderstorm. No umbrella, clothes drenched, plans ruined. The first person curses the sky. Of all the days, why now? The second closes their eyes, feels the raindrops on their skin, and whispers, "Wow, this feels kind of beautiful." Same rain, same moment, but two completely different experiences. Why? Because suffering doesn't come from the rain. It comes from how the mind interprets the rain. There's an old Buddhist story about a traveler and a monk caught in a heavy downpour. The traveler was soaked, angry, miserable. "This storm is ruining everything," he shouted. But the monk sat peacefully beneath a tree, smiled, and replied, "The storm exists only in your mind. The rain is just rain." That story changed something in me when I first heard it. I started to realize how often I let my mind turn neutral events into emotional disasters. Because life, in itself, is neutral. It's our perception that colors everything. If we see a challenge as a threat, we suffer. But if we see it as an opportunity to grow, we rise. Let's talk about one of the biggest causes of suffering: attachment. We get attached to people, to titles, to outcomes, to our own ideas of how life should be. And here's the dangerous part. We convince ourselves that these things define our happiness. We say things like, "If I don't get that promotion, I'll never be happy." Or, "If they leave me, my life will fall apart." But the Buddha taught that everything in life is impermanent. Nothing and no one lasts forever. And when we resist that truth, we suffer deeply. Think about someone who ties all their happiness to a relationship. What happens when that relationship ends? If their joy was built entirely on something outside of them, they're left with nothing but pain. But detachment is not the same as rejection or indifference. It doesn't mean stop loving. It means loving without clinging, caring without control, enjoying this moment fully without fearing the next one. When we stop gripping life with clenched fists, we begin to experience freedom. Another major source of suffering: resistance. The mind says, "This shouldn't be happening." But life says, "It already is." And the more we fight reality, the more it fights back. Imagine two people who lose all their money. One falls into despair, obsessed with regret and blame. The other is shaken too, but accepts what's happened and slowly begins again. Same event, totally different experience. See, resistance is the mind's way of trying to control the uncontrollable. But acceptance, true, mindful acceptance, is the path to peace. And no, acceptance doesn't mean giving up or being passive. It means seeing life clearly, responding with wisdom, not fear. It means saying, okay, this is where I am right now. It's not what I planned, but I can still move forward. When you meet life on its terms, not your expectations, suffering starts to fade. So how do we begin this shift? The answer is simple, but not always easy. Mindfulness. Mindfulness means coming fully into the present moment, without judgment, without resistance. When we stop replaying the past or fearing the future and just be, we start to feel lighter. I know this from personal experience. The more I practice mindfulness, the more I notice my suffering isn't caused by what's happening, but by how I think about what's happening. It's not the event, it's the reaction. And when we realize that, even just for a second, we take the first real step toward freedom.
So next time you feel overwhelmed, ask yourself, is this pain coming from the situation or from my mind's reaction to it? That question alone can open a door you didn't know existed, because the mind that creates suffering can also create peace. And you, my friend, have the power to choose which path it walks. If this message resonates with you, if you're ready to start living with more clarity, more calm, and more freedom, I invite you to subscribe for more mindful wisdom every week. Until next time, breathe deeply, be kind to your mind, and remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them.